The Galactic Council chamber hummed with the low frequencies of 1,000 different species, communicating in their native tongues. Translators worked overtime as representatives. From across the known galaxy gathered for what many considered the most significant archaeological discovery in recorded history. Commander Xyloth of the Xerian Empire stood before the massive holographic display, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled delegates. The blue-skinned humanoid adjusted his ceremonial robes and activated the presentation. With a gesture from his elongated fingers, honored members of the Council, his voice resonated through universal translators. Today we present findings from the third planet of the Sol system. What we discovered there challenges everything we thought we knew about galactic history. The hologram shifted to show a blue and green marble suspended in the darkness of space. Earth hung there seemingly peaceful, with white clouds swirling across its surface. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as many recognized the legendary world from ancient texts. For 3,000 years, we have believed this planet to be nothing more than a cautionary tale, Xyloth continued. Our oldest record spoke of a violent species that once inhabited this world. They called themselves humans, and according to our archives, they destroyed themselves in nuclear fire sometime around your year 2157. The image zoomed in, revealing massive crater-filled continents and dead oceans. The surface looked exactly as their ancient records had predicted, a wasteland of glass and radiation, the inevitable result of a species too aggressive for its own good. Our survey teams landed 3 months ago expecting to find only archaeological remains. What they discovered instead has forced us to rewrite our understanding of this lost civilization. Xyloth paused for dramatic effect. The humans did not destroy themselves. They were exterminated. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background chatter of the translation system seemed to quiet as delegates leaned forward in their seats. Evidence suggests that an unknown hostile force attacked Earth approximately 2,147 years ago. The nuclear devastation we see was not self-inflicted warfare, but rather the result of an orbital bombardment so thorough that it melted entire continents. Dr. Keening, the insectoid chief archaeologist, stepped forward on her 6 legs. Her mandibles clicked as she spoke. The precision of the attack patterns indicates advanced military technology. Someone wanted to ensure complete annihilation of all surface life. However, our deep-core drilling has revealed something extraordinary. The hologram shifted to show cross-sectional views of underground facilities, massive bunker complexes stretched for kilometers beneath the Earth's surface, connected by a network of tunnels that spanned entire continents. The humans saw this attack coming, Dr. Keening explained. Somehow they had enough warning to build the most extensive underground civilization we have ever encountered. Our scans indicate these facilities could have supported millions of individuals for centuries. Delegate Thornwick of the Peaceful Collective raised one of her 3 arms. Her tree-like appearance swayed slightly as she spoke through photosynthetic communication patches on her bark. Are you suggesting that some humans survived this attack? Not survived, Xyloth corrected grimly. The facilities were breached approximately 2,000 years ago. Energy weapon signatures indicate that whoever attacked the surface eventually found and eliminated the underground survivors as well. The implications hung heavy in the chamber. Every species present knew the feeling of looking over their shoulder, wondering if they might be next. The galaxy had always been dangerous, but the systematic extermination of an entire species spoke to a level of malevolence that chilled even the most warlike delegates. Who did this? The question came from General Korthak of the Mandalorian clans, his gravelly voice carrying the weight of military experience. His scarred, gray-skinned face showed the kind of concern that only a warrior could feel when faced with such overwhelming force. That remains unknown, Dr. Keening admitted. However, we have recovered several artifacts that suggest the humans were aware of their attackers. They left behind detailed records, though most are encrypted or damaged beyond recovery. The hologram shifted again, showing recovered data tablets and storage devices. Strange symbols covered their surfaces, indecipherable to the assembled xenolinguists despite their best efforts. What we can tell you is this, Xyloth continued. The humans were not the primitive warmongers our histories claimed. They were a technologically sophisticated species with advanced spaceflight capabilities. More importantly, they fought back. This revelation caused an uproar in the chamber. Species that had considered humans little more than violent animals suddenly found themselves reevaluating everything they thought they knew. The orbital battle lasted for months, Dr. Keening explained as the chamber quieted. Debris patterns indicate that human forces destroyed at least 12 major enemy vessels before their defenses were overwhelmed. For a species that supposedly never left their home system, this represents remarkable military capability. Ambassador Tylex of the Silicon Collective processed this information through their crystalline neural matrix. If humans possess such technology, why do our records show no evidence of their expansion into space? Because, Xyloth said gravely, they never had the chance. According to our analysis, the attack began less than 50 years after humans achieved faster-than-light travel. Someone was watching them, waiting for them to develop into a perceived threat, then struck without warning or mercy. The chamber erupted in heated debate as representatives considered the implications. If an unknown force was monitoring developing species and eliminating them before they could spread across the galaxy, what did that mean for their own civilizations? There's more, Dr. Keening announced, and the arguing delegates fell silent once again. We discovered human colonies. The statement hit the assembly like a physical blow. Several delegates actually staggered in their seats. 7 light-years from Earth, we found evidence of 3 human settlements on marginal worlds. They appear to have been established as deep space research stations, possibly as early warning systems against whatever threat they feared. These colonies were also destroyed, but not until nearly 1,000 years after Earth fell. 1,000 years, whispered Delegate Morthak of the Hive Mind, her collective consciousness struggling to process the timeline. They held out for a millennium? The evidence suggests they did more than hold out, Xyloth replied. They evolved. The later colony sites show technological advancement far beyond what we found on Earth. Someone continued human development for 10 centuries of warfare. As the implications sank in, a new fear began to spread through the chamber. If humans had survived for 1,000 years after their homeworld's destruction, constantly advancing their technology while under siege from an unknown enemy, what had they become? And more importantly, the question that no one dared voice aloud but everyone was thinking, were they still out there? The session was adjourned with more questions than answers, but one thing was certain. The galaxy's understanding of human extinction had been completely overturned, and somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the truth was waiting to be discovered. 6 weeks after the shocking revelations in the Galactic Council chamber, a joint expedition fleet assembled at the edge of human space. 12 ships representing 8 different species hung in the void, their crews united by curiosity and growing concern about what they might find. Captain Sarah Chen of the exploration vessel Discovery floated in her command pod, reviewing the mission parameters for the 3rd time that day. The irony wasn't lost on her that a human was leading the investigation into her own species' supposed extinction, but the Council had insisted that her unique perspective might prove invaluable. Captain, her first officer, a tall Zarian named Vex, approached her station. The archaeological team has finished their preliminary scans of the Kepler 442 colony site. Dr. Keening wants to brief the command staff immediately. Chen nodded and activated the ship's communication array. Within minutes, holographic projections of the other expedition leaders materialized around her command deck. The diversity of the group never ceased to amaze her. Everything from the crystalline collective representatives to the gaseous beings from the nebula. Territories. Dr. Keening's insectoid form appeared. In the center of the gathering, her mandibles clicking with what Chen had learned indicated excitement. What we're seeing at this colony defies conventional understanding of technological development. These humans didn't just survive for 1,000 years. They transformed their entire approach to warfare and civilization. The hologram shifted to show a massive asteroid that had been completely hollowed out and converted into a fortress. The surface bristled with weapon emplacements and shield generators, while the interior revealed a complex maze of manufacturing facilities and living quarters. This is Kepler 442c, the 3rd human colony we've investigated, Dr. Keening explained. Unlike the earlier settlements, this one shows signs of having been constructed entirely in space, with no surface infrastructure whatsoever. The humans had learned to live in the void itself. General Korthak's projection leaned forward, his military experience immediately recognizing the tactical advantages. Brilliant. No fixed location to bombard from orbit. They could move their entire civilization if threatened. Precisely, Dr. Keening confirmed. But that's not the most remarkable discovery. Captain Chen, your species developed something we've never seen before, a completely distributed command structure that operated across multiple star systems simultaneously. Chen felt a strange pride welling up inside her chest. These were her people, her ancestors in all but direct lineage, and they had achieved something that impressed even the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. How is that possible? Asked Ambassador Tylex. Faster-than-light communication has theoretical limits even for our most advanced technologies. They didn't use faster-than-light communication, Dr. Keening replied. They used something far more elegant. Each colony was designed to function as an independent entity, while maintaining perfect strategic coordination with all other human settlements. They essentially created a hive mind that operated on pure logic and predetermined responses. The implications were staggering. A species that could coordinate military actions across dozens of star systems without real-time communication would be nearly impossible to defeat through conventional means. Show them the weapons, urged Dr. Rothax, the expedition's military analyst. His reptilian features showed a mixture of admiration and concern. The hologram changed to display a recovered human weapon system. It looked deceptively simple, a sleek, metallic device about the size of a human fist, but the energy readings it had produced were off any known scale. We found thousands of these devices scattered throughout the colony's defense networks, Dr. Keening explained. Our initial analysis suggested they were some kind of directed energy weapon. However, when we attempted to activate one for testing, the hologram showed the test footage. A single device secured in a containment field had been activated with a minimal power setting. The resulting energy discharge had vaporized the entire test asteroid and created a brief but artificial star that had been visible from 3 star systems away. Silence fell over the assembled commanders. Chen found herself gripping the edges of her command pod, struggling to process what she had just witnessed. One weapon, Dr. Keening continued quietly, produced energy output equivalent to a solar flare, and the humans had thousands of them at this single colony. How many colonies were there? Chen asked, though she dreaded the answer. Our long-range surveys have identified at least 47 human settlements within 100 light-year radius of Earth. Some show signs of having supported populations in the millions. All were eventually destroyed, but the timeline suggests they held out for nearly 1,500 years after Earth fell. Delegate Morthak's collective consciousness struggled with the mathematics. A species under siege for 15 centuries, constantly advancing their technology while fighting for survival. What would they have become by the end? Dr. Keening's mandibles clicked ominously. We may be about to find out. Yesterday, our deep space monitoring stations detected something at the edge of the galaxy. A massive energy signature moving at incredible speeds headed directly toward the galactic core. The hologram shifted to show sensor readings that made no sense to most of the assembled commanders. The object, if it could be called that, was roughly the size of a moon but moving at a significant fraction of light speed without any apparent propulsion system. Initial analysis suggests it's artificial, Dr. Keening continued. The energy patterns are consistent with the weapons technology we recovered from the human colonies, but scaled up by several orders of magnitude. Captain Chen felt her blood run cold. How long until it reaches inhabited systems? At current velocity, approximately 18 months. But here's what truly concerns us, it's not alone. We've detected at least 6 similar signatures approaching from different vectors. Whatever this is, it's coordinated. The expedition leaders exchanged worried glances across their holographic projections. The implications were clear, even if no one wanted to voice them directly. Are you suggesting, General Korthak said slowly, that the humans somehow survived their extinction and are now returning with advanced military technology? I'm suggesting, Dr. Keening replied carefully, that we may have seriously underestimated this species. The evidence indicates that not all human settlements were destroyed. Some may have escaped beyond our sensor range, continuing to develop and grow while nursing a 1,500-year grudge against whoever murdered their homeworld. Ambassador Tylex's crystalline form shifted through several color spectrums as their consciousness processed the possibilities. If humans possess technology capable of creating artificial stars and moving moon-sized objects at near light speed, no known military force in the galaxy could stand against them. Which brings us to our most pressing concern. Dr. Keening concluded. We still don't know who originally attacked humanity. For all we know, that enemy is still out there, still operating within our civilizations. And if the humans are returning for revenge, they may not distinguish between their original attackers and innocent species who simply inherited a galaxy built on their extinction. Chen stared at the sensor readings, showing those massive objects racing toward the galactic core. Somewhere out there, her species had not only survived, but had spent 15 centuries preparing for this moment. The question that terrified her was simple. When they arrived, would they see the current galactic civilizations as potential allies, or as accomplices in genocide? The expedition had set out to uncover the truth about human extinction. Instead, they had discovered that humanity's story was far from over, and the final chapter was rapidly approaching. The galaxy that had mourned the loss of humanity was about to discover that reports of their extinction had been greatly exaggerated, and judging by the weapons technology they had developed during their exile, they were coming back with a vengeance that would reshape the balance of power across every known star system. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in complete secrecy. Representatives from every major civilization gathered in the hidden chambers beneath the Council's primary station, their faces grim with the knowledge that their entire way of life might be about to change forever. Captain Chen stood before the assembly, no longer just an expedition leader, but now serving as the primary liaison for what everyone hoped would be peaceful first contact. The weight of speaking for an entire galaxy pressed heavily on her shoulders. The approaching signatures have slowed to sub-light speeds, she reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was announcing. Long-range sensors indicate they will reach the outer colonies within 6 weeks. We have that long to prepare for what may be the most important diplomatic encounter in galactic history. Commander Xyloth activated the main display, showing the current positions of the human vessels. 7 massive objects, each the size of a small moon, had taken up positions throughout the outer rim territories. They made no hostile moves, but their very presence sent waves of panic through the nearby star systems. Have they responded to any communication attempts? Asked Delegate Thornwick, her bark patterns shifting to display deep concern. Not to our standard diplomatic channels, Chen replied. However, 3 days ago we received this. The chamber's speakers crackled to life with a sound that made every delegate freeze. It was clearly a human voice speaking in perfect galactic standard, but carrying an edge that suggested centuries of barely contained rage. To the current inhabitants of the galaxy, formerly known as the human sphere, we are the Exodus Fleet, representing the surviving remnants of humanity. We have returned to reclaim what was stolen from us and to seek justice for the genocide committed against our species. You have 72 hours to produce the individuals responsible for the systematic extermination of our colonies. Compliance will be rewarded with mercy. Resistance will be met with the full force of technologies you cannot comprehend. The message ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Several delegates shifted nervously, and Chen could see fear in their eyes. This was no longer about archaeological discoveries or ancient history. Humanity had returned, and they were demanding answers that no one in the current galaxy could provide. General Korthak was the first to speak. The arrogance is astounding. They're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1 and they're making demands? Are they, though? Dr. Keening interrupted, her mandibles clicking rapidly. Our analysis of their vessels suggests technology so far beyond our capabilities that numerical superiority may be meaningless. Each of those ships appears to carry weapons that could sterilize entire star systems. Ambassador Tylex's crystalline form pulsed with calculated thought. The real question is whether they're bluffing about their capabilities or genuinely possess the power they claim. Chen had been dreading this moment, but she knew she had to share what she had discovered. 3 hours ago, we received a demonstration of their capabilities. The mining station at Kepler 438 was completely vaporized, not destroyed, completely converted to base elements and scattered across several light-years of space. The energy required for such precision annihilation is beyond our current scientific understanding. The implications sent a wave of terror through the assembly. A species that could casually erase mining stations as demonstrations possess the power to end galactic civilization if they chose to do so. What do they want from us? Delegate Morthak asked, her hive mind struggling to process the threat assessment. Justice, Chen replied simply. They believe we're harboring or protecting whoever was responsible for attacking Earth and their colonies. The problem is, none of our historical records show any evidence of such an attack being authorized by any current galactic government. Commander Xyloth brought up historical data, scanning through thousands of years of records. The timeline doesn't match any known military campaigns. When Earth was supposedly attacked, most of our current civilizations were barely spacefaring. We simply didn't have the technology for such systematic extermination. Unless, Dr. Keening said slowly, the attackers were never part of our current galactic community. What if there was another species, one that has since disappeared or gone into hiding? The possibility hung in the air like a toxic cloud. If humanity's original attackers were still operating in secret, they had successfully hidden their involvement for over 3,000 years, while innocent species inherited their crimes. We need to establish direct communication, Chen announced. I'm volunteering to make contact with the human fleet. If anyone has a chance of reasoning with them, it should be another human. Absolutely not, General Korthak protested. You could be captured or killed, and we'd lose our only potential diplomatic advantage. With respect, General, I don't think we have a choice. They've given us 72 hours, and we're already down to 68. If we don't make some gesture of good faith, they may decide that we're all complicit in whatever happened to their people. The debate continued for several hours, but ultimately the council agreed. Chen would lead a small diplomatic mission to the nearest human vessel, carrying with them every piece of historical data they could compile about the time period in question. 2 days later, Chen's ship approached the human vessel designated as Vengeance of Terra. Up close, the massive construct was even more intimidating than the sensor readings had suggested. Its surface bristled with weapons that seemed to bend space itself, while energy fields strong enough to deflect stellar radiation surrounded the entire structure. Unknown vessel, came the transmission as they drew closer. State your purpose and prepare to be boarded. Chen activated her communication system. This is Captain Sarah Chen, representing the Galactic Council. I'm requesting permission to come aboard for diplomatic discussions. There was a long pause before the response came, and when it did, the voice carried a note of surprise. Did you say Chen? As in human? Yes, I'm one of the few humans who survived through the Galactic Preservation Program. I'm here to help resolve the situation peacefully. Another pause, longer this time. Permission granted. Bay 12. Come alone. As Chen's shuttle entered the massive vessel, she was struck by the ship's interior design. Everything was built for functionality over aesthetics, with the hard edges and reinforced construction of a civilization that had spent centuries preparing for war. But underneath the military efficiency, she could see touches of humanity that brought tears to her eyes. Artwork depicting Earth's lost landscapes, memorial walls covered with names of the dead, and gardens where extinct Earth plants somehow thrived once again. Her escort led her through corridors filled with people who looked human, but carried themselves with the bearing of career soldiers. These were the descendants of refugees who had spent their entire lives preparing for this day, and the determination in their eyes was both inspiring and terrifying. Finally, she was brought to a command center, where a woman in her 40s stood examining holographic displays of galactic defense networks. When she turned, Chen saw her own face reflected back with minor variations. They could have been sisters separated by different life experiences. Captain Chen, the woman said, extending her hand. I'm Admiral Rebecca Torres of the Terran Exodus Fleet. I have to say, meeting another human under these circumstances is unexpected. Chen shook her hand, feeling the strength in the grip of someone raised in high gravity and constant training. Admiral Torres, I've come to discuss the Council's response to your ultimatum. We want to help you find justice for what happened to humanity, but I need you to understand something crucial. Torres raised an eyebrow. Which is? The species that comprise the current galactic community weren't responsible for the attack on Earth. Most of them weren't even spacefaring when your colonies fell. We're dealing with a mystery that spans thousands of years, and threatening innocent civilizations won't help us solve it. Torres studied her for a long moment, then activated a holographic display showing battle footage that made Chen's stomach turn. Ships bearing no recognizable insignia systematically destroyed human colonies with weapons that turned entire worlds to ash. Innocent? Torres asked quietly. Captain, we've spent 1,500 years tracking down everyone involved in the genocide of our species. Our intelligence networks extend throughout the galaxy, and what we discovered will shock you. Torres activated another display, showing detailed intelligence reports spanning centuries of galactic politics. The attack on humanity wasn't random. It was coordinated by a shadow organization that has been manipulating galactic civilization for millennia. They call themselves the Shepherds, and they've been systematically eliminating any species they consider a potential threat to their vision of galactic order. Chen stared at the evidence, her mind racing as she began to understand the true scope of what they were facing. Humanity hadn't been randomly attacked by unknown aliens. They had been targeted for elimination by a conspiracy that was still operating within the current galactic government. Who are they? She asked, dreading the answer. Torres smiled grimly. That's what we're here to find out. And when we do, every single one of them will pay for what they did to Earth. Admiral Torres led Captain Chen deeper into the vessel, through corridors lined with memorial plaques bearing the names of billions of lost humans. The weight of generational grief was palpable in every corner of the ship, turning what should have been a marvel of engineering into a floating monument to tragedy. What I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about galactic civilization, Torres said as they approached a heavily secured chamber. My people have spent 15 centuries gathering this intelligence, often at the cost of their lives. The chamber doors opened to reveal the most comprehensive intelligence operation Chen had ever witnessed. Holographic displays covered every surface, showing interconnected webs of information that spanned thousands of years and hundreds of star systems. At the center of it all stood a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with red lines connecting seemingly unrelated events. This is the Shepherd Network, Torres explained, gesturing to the displays. For over 5,000 years, they have been guiding galactic development according to their own agenda. Every major war, every technological breakthrough, every shift in political power has been either caused or allowed by their intervention. Chen studied the connections, her mind struggling to process the implications. You're talking about a conspiracy that predates most known civilizations. How is that even possible? Because they're not from any known civilization, Torres replied. The Shepherds are the remnants of the first spacefaring species in the galaxy. They achieved faster-than-light travel millions of years ago, but instead of expanding openly, they chose to remain hidden and manipulate younger species from the shadows. A new display activated, showing archaeological evidence from dozens of worlds. Ancient ruins bore similar symbols across vast distances, suggesting a unified civilization that had once spanned the entire galaxy. They call themselves the Firstborn, and they believe it's their right to shape the galaxy according to their vision. Any species that develops too quickly or shows signs of becoming a genuine threat is marked for elimination. Chen felt a chill as she understood the implication. Humanity was eliminated because you were developing too fast? Exactly. In less than 2 centuries, humans went from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light capable starships. That rate of advancement triggered their automated threat assessment protocols. The attack on Earth wasn't personal, it was pest control. Torres activated another display showing the current Galactic Council chamber. Red indicators marked nearly a third of the assembled delegates. These individuals are either Shepherd agents or useful idiots who unknowingly serve their agenda. They've been steering galactic policy for centuries, ensuring that no species develops beyond acceptable limits. Chen studied the marked delegates, recognizing several prominent political figures. Commander Xyloth is marked as an agent. He's the one who discovered the human ruins in the first place. A carefully orchestrated revelation, Torres confirmed. The Shepherds wanted the galaxy to know that humanity had been extinct for thousands of years. It reinforced their narrative about the dangers of uncontrolled technological development while hiding their own involvement. But why reveal themselves now? If they've been operating in secret for millions of years, why risk exposure? Torres smiled grimly. Because they didn't know about the Exodus fleet. Their intelligence networks are extensive but not perfect. They thought they had eliminated every last human in the galaxy. Our return has forced them into a reactive position for the first time in millennia. Chen examined the intelligence reports more closely, finding evidence of dozens of species that had suffered similar fates to humanity. How many others have they destroyed? We estimate at least 47 species over the past 10,000 years. Some were eliminated openly through manufactured wars. Others simply disappeared. Their worlds were sterilized and their histories erased from galactic records. The scope of the genocide was staggering. An entire galaxy's worth of diverse civilizations had been pruned and shaped by beings who considered themselves the rightful owners of all sentient life. What's their ultimate goal? Chen asked, though she dreaded the answer. Torres activated a final display showing projections of galactic development under Shepard guidance. Total control over the evolution of sentient life. They want a galaxy populated entirely by species that will never threaten their supremacy. Eternal children who will worship them as gods while remaining forever dependent on their guidance. Chen stared at the projection, seeing a future where every species in the galaxy existed only by permission of their ancient overlords. And they nearly succeeded. Until we came back, Torres confirmed. The Exodus fleet represents everything they tried to prevent. We're a species that survived their extermination attempt and spent 15 centuries advancing beyond their ability to control. We've become the very nightmare that drove them to commit genocide in the first place. What are your intentions? Chen asked directly. Are you here to conquer the galaxy or to save it? Torres was quiet for a long moment, studying displays showing the current positions of both human and galactic forces. That depends entirely on how the galaxy responds to this revelation. We've given the Council proof of the Shepard conspiracy. If they act to root out the agents and dismantle the network, we'll gladly work alongside them to build a truly free galactic civilization. And if they don't? Torres's expression hardened. Then we'll do what we should have done 3,000 years ago. We'll eliminate every Shepard agent and sympathizer, regardless of the cost to galactic stability. We won't allow another species to suffer the fate that befell humanity. Chen understood the implications. Humanity had returned with the power to reshape galactic civilization by force if necessary. They were offering cooperation, but only if the current governments proved willing to confront the conspiracy that had shaped their entire history. The Shepards won't go quietly, Chen observed. If they've been manipulating galactic politics for millennia, they must have contingency plans. Oh, they do, Torres confirmed, activating a new display showing military mobilizations across the galaxy. They're calling in every favor and activating every sleeper agent. Within days, we expect to see manufactured conflicts break out across multiple star systems. They'll try to pit the galactic community against us while positioning themselves as the reasonable alternative to human aggression. Chen watched as the displays showed fleets moving into position, trade routes being disrupted, and communication networks being subtly compromised. The Shepards were preparing for open war while maintaining the illusion that they were simply responding to the human threat. How do we stop them? By forcing them into the open, Torres replied. For millions of years, their greatest weapon has been secrecy. Once the galaxy sees them for what they really are, their power structure will collapse. Torres handed Chen a data crystal containing the complete intelligence package on the Shepard network. Take this back to your council. Show them exactly who has been pulling their strings for thousands of years. Give them the chance to do the right thing. And if they refuse to believe it, Torres's smile was cold and determined. Then they'll learn the hard way that humanity doesn't stay dead easily. We've spent 15 centuries preparing for this moment, and we won't be denied justice again. As Chen prepared to return to her ship, Torres stopped her with a final warning. Captain, the Shepards will try to eliminate you before you can deliver that information. They know we've made contact and they can't allow their secrets to spread. Watch your back, and trust no one until you're absolutely certain of their loyalties. Chen looked around the command center one more time, taking in the faces of the human crew members. These people had never seen Earth, but they carried the memory of their lost world like a sacred flame. They had become something beyond what humanity had been, a species forged by tragedy into an instrument of justice that could reshape the galaxy. Whether that reshaping would be peaceful or violent depended entirely on what happened in the next few hours. Chen clutched the data crystal tightly as she headed back to her shuttle, knowing that she carried either the salvation or the doom of galactic civilization in her hands. The truth about the Shepards was about to be revealed, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. Captain Chen's shuttle had barely cleared the human vessel when the attack began. Energy beams lanced through space from seemingly empty coordinates, targeting her ship with weapons that hadn't been there moments before. Only her enhanced reflexes and military training saved her, as she threw the shuttle into an evasive spiral that would have pulped a normal human. Cloaked vessels. She broadcast to both the human fleet and the nearby Galactic Council ships, at least 6 attackers using stealth technology beyond current specifications. The space around her erupted into chaos as more ships decloaked, revealing sleek vessels of a design that appeared in no known database. These weren't the crude stealth systems used by pirates or rogue states. This was technology that bent light itself, creating perfect invisibility until the moment of attack. Admiral Torres's voice crackled through her communication system. "Captain Chen, get clear of the combat zone. Vengeance of Terra is engaging." Chen watched in awe as the massive human vessel came alive with weapon systems that defied physics. Instead of conventional energy beams or projectiles, the ship seemed to reach out with tendrils of twisted space-time that simply erased whatever they touched. The attacking vessels found their shields useless against weapons that operated on principles beyond their understanding. But the attackers weren't defenseless. As Chen watched, they began firing weapons that seemed to age whatever they hit. One of the nearby Council observation ships was struck and immediately began to decay, its hull corroding as if centuries were passing in seconds. "Temporal weapons," Chen breathed into her communicator. "They're using time itself as ammunition." The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. 2 groups of beings wielding technologies that transcended normal physics fought with the casual destructiveness of gods. Space itself became a battlefield as reality was bent, twisted, and sometimes temporarily broken by the forces being unleashed. Through it all, Chen found herself being pursued by a single attacker that seemed specifically focused on preventing her from reaching the Council station. Every time she thought she had escaped, the enemy ship would appear from nowhere, its temporal weapons reaching out to age her shuttle into cosmic dust. "You cannot be allowed to deliver that information," came a transmission from her pursuer. The voice was melodious and ancient, carrying the weight of millions of years. "The galaxy is not ready for such knowledge. Ready or not, they deserve to know the truth," Chen shouted back, pushing her shuttle's engines beyond safe limits. "Truth is a luxury that leads to chaos," the voice replied calmly. "We have maintained order for longer than your species has existed. We will not allow that order to be disrupted by the wounded pride of an extinct race." Chen felt anger flare within her chest. These beings spoke of humanity as if they were nothing more than an inconvenient pest even now, after everything humanity had endured and achieved. "Extinct?" She laughed bitterly. "Look around you. Does this look like extinction to you?" The enemy ship fired another temporal blast that missed her shuttle by mere meters, causing a nearby asteroid to crumble into ancient dust. "An oversight that will be corrected. Your species should have remained buried on your dead world." As Chen struggled to reach the Council station, she realized that this attack had been carefully planned. The moment she made contact with the human fleet, the Shepherds had activated their contingency protocols. They weren't just trying to stop her from delivering the intelligence data. They were using the battle as proof that humanity represented an uncontrollable threat to galactic stability. Across the galaxy, she could see the signs of their manipulation beginning to take effect. News networks were broadcasting footage of the battle, carefully edited to show human weapons destroying peaceful Council ships while omitting the initial Shepherd attack. Trade routes were being shut down as security measures and military. Fleets were being mobilized under the guise of protecting civilians from human aggression. "Torres," she called out over the communication system, "they're using this battle to justify a preemptive strike against the human fleet. You're playing right into their hands, I know," Torres replied grimly, "but we can't allow you to be captured. The data you carry is too important." Chen made a decision that surprised even herself. Instead of continuing toward the Council station, she changed course and headed directly toward the largest concentration of Shepherd vessels. "What are you doing?" Torres demanded. "Something stupid," Chen replied, activating her ship's emergency beacon and broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Captain Sarah Chen to all vessels in the area. I'm about to prove something about the beings calling themselves the Shepherds." Before anyone could stop her, she flew directly into the formation of attacking ships, knowing that their temporal weapons would have to target her precisely to avoid hitting their own forces. The result was exactly what she had hoped for. As the Shepherd vessels tried to destroy her shuttle, their perfect coordination began to break down. In their desperation to stop her, they began firing wildly and their temporal weapons started hitting each other. The effect was catastrophic for their cloaking systems. As the ships aged rapidly under friendly fire, their stealth technology failed, revealing their true forms to every sensor in the system. What Chen saw made her gasp in recognition. These weren't the sleek, advanced vessels she had expected. They were ancient beyond measure, held together by technology that was more ritual than engineering. The beings inside weren't the godlike entities they pretended to be. They were the desperate remnants of a dying civilization, using the last of their power to maintain control over a galaxy they could no longer truly understand. "There's your shepherds," Chen broadcast to the galaxy as the images were transmitted across every communication network. "Ancient failing parasites who have been feeding off our civilizations for millions of years." The revelation sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The beings they had feared as godlike manipulators were revealed as pathetic remnants, desperately clinging to relevance. Their weapons were powerful but primitive. Their ships were archaeological relics, and their vaunted intelligence networks were held together by technology that was literally falling apart. But the most damaging revelation was yet to come. As the Shepherd ships continued to decay under the effects of their own temporal weapons, their communication systems began to fail, broadcasting their internal discussions to the entire galaxy. "The experiment is compromised," came one panicked transmission. "Terminate all test subjects and initiate Protocol Zero." "Protocol Zero?" came another voice. "But that will sterilize half the galaxy. Better a controlled genocide than allowing these species to develop beyond our ability to contain them." The casual discussion of galactic extermination, broadcast for all to hear, shattered any remaining illusion about the Shepherd's benevolent intentions. They weren't protectors of galactic civilization, they were farmers who were prepared to burn their crops rather than lose control of them. Chen felt her shuttle finally succumb to accumulated damage from near misses with temporal weapons. As her life support systems failed, she transmitted the intelligence data one final time, scattering it across every communication network in the galaxy. "The truth is out there now," she broadcast as her shuttle began to break apart. "Don't let them convince you it's for your own good." But as her ship disintegrated around her, she found herself surrounded by a protective energy field. The human vessel Vengeance of Terra had moved to shield her, its advanced technology easily countering the failing systems of the Shepherd ships. "Well done, Captain," Torres transmitted as Chen's shuttle was brought safely aboard. "You've done more damage to their operations in 10 minutes than we managed in 50 years of covert warfare." Around them, the battle was winding down as the revealed Shepherd forces retreated in disarray. But Chen knew this was just the beginning. Now that their existence was confirmed and their intentions were clear, the real war for the soul of galactic civilization could finally begin. The question was whether the galaxy would unite against their ancient oppressors, or fracture under the weight of millions of years of careful manipulation. Either way, humanity had kept its promise to return with a vengeance, and the age of the Shepherds was finally coming to an end. The galaxy would never be the same, but for the first time in millennia, it had a chance to be truly free. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of the Shepherd revelation, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. Instead of the orderly debate that normally characterized such gatherings, the chamber buzzed with the electricity of civilizations, suddenly awakening to the truth about their entire history. Captain Chen stood before the assembly, no longer just a diplomatic observer but now a witness to the greatest conspiracy in galactic history. The data crystal containing the complete intelligence package on the Shepherd network had been distributed to every delegation, and the implications were still sinking in. Commander Xyloth, who had been identified as a Shepherd agent, was notably absent from his usual position. Security forces had attempted to detain him, only to discover that his quarters were empty and his ship had vanished during the chaos of the recent battle. Similar disappearances were being reported throughout the galaxy as the conspiracy began to unravel. "The evidence is overwhelming," announced General Korthak, his scarred features showing the strain of processing centuries of deception. "Half our military command structure has been compromised. Strategic decisions that we thought were our own were actually guided by beings who saw us as livestock to be managed. Delegate Thornwick swayed as her photosynthetic patches flickered with distress. The peaceful collective's entire philosophy of non-interference was shaped by shepherd agents. We've been preventing younger species from developing advanced technology while telling ourselves we were protecting them from the dangers of rapid advancement. The revelations kept coming as each species examined their own histories with new understanding. Trade routes that had seemed naturally optimal were revealed to have been designed to prevent certain civilizations from growing too powerful. Scientific breakthroughs that had revolutionized galactic society had been carefully timed and distributed to maintain the balance of power that served shepherd interests. Dr. Keening's mandibles clicked rapidly as she processed the biological implications. The genetic modification programs that enhanced my species' intelligence were guided by shepherd technology. We're not naturally evolved beings. We're engineered servants designed to fulfill specific roles in their galactic ecosystem. The weight of this realization fell heavily on the assembled delegates. Every achievement their civilizations had celebrated, every advancement they had struggled for had been allowed or guided by their ancient oppressors. They weren't the masters of their own destiny. They were products in a cosmic breeding program that had been running for millions of years. But amid the despair and anger, a new voice rose from the assembly. Ambassador Tylex, their crystalline form pulsing with determined light, spoke with the clarity of silicon-based logic. The shepherds made one critical error in their calculations, Tylex announced. They assumed that controlled evolution would never produce beings capable of breaking free from their manipulation. But the human example proves them wrong. All attention turned to the crystalline being as they continued. Humanity was scheduled for elimination, precisely because they showed signs of uncontrolled development. But the survivors didn't just maintain their independence, they transcended it. They became something the shepherds never planned for and cannot predict. Admiral Torres, who had been granted permission to address the council via holographic projection, nodded in agreement. Our exile forced us to abandon the comfortable assumptions that keep species docile. We had to innovate or die, and we chose to innovate in ways that the shepherds couldn't anticipate because they were beyond their ability to control. Chen felt a surge of pride as she watched the galactic representatives begin to understand what humanity represented. They weren't just survivors of genocide. They were proof that the shepherd system could be broken. "What do you propose?" asked Delegate Morthak, her hive mind struggling to process the complexity of breaking free from millions of years of manipulation. Torres's expression hardened with determination. "We dismantle their network completely. Every agent, every hidden facility, every piece of their control system gets rooted out and destroyed. But we don't stop there." The holographic display shifted to show star charts marking hundreds of systems throughout the galaxy. "We've identified 47 other species that were eliminated over the past 10,000 years. Some of them may have survivors in deep space like we did. Others might have left behind technological caches or cultural archives. We help them rebuild if possible, and we honor their memory if they're truly gone." General Korthak leaned forward, his military instincts engaging with the scope of the proposed operation. "You're talking about a complete restructuring of galactic civilization. The shepherds have been managing resource distribution, trade relationships, even breeding programs for millennia. Remove their influence and half the galaxy could collapse into chaos." "Better honest chaos than comfortable slavery," Torres replied firmly. "Besides, we're not proposing to simply remove their influence and hope for the best. We're offering to help build something better." Chen activated her own display, showing the technological innovations that humanity had developed during their exile. "The survival technologies we developed could revolutionize how every species approaches resource management, space colonization, and defensive systems. We're offering to share everything we learned, freely and without conditions." The implications were staggering. Technologies that could allow civilizations to thrive in environments previously considered uninhabitable, defensive systems that could protect against any future attempts at systematic extermination, and resource management techniques that could support massive population growth without depleting planetary ecosystems. "There's more," Torres continued. "Our intelligence networks have identified the location of the primary shepherd facility. It's a massive construct hidden in the galactic core, powered by the energy of the central black hole itself. That's where they've been coordinating their manipulation of galactic civilization for millions of years. The chamber fell silent as delegates processed this information. The idea of a hidden facility that had been operating since before most of their species had evolved was almost impossible to comprehend. We could destroy it, Torres offered. Our weapons are certainly capable of that level of destruction, but we think there's a better option. Chen understood immediately what Torres was proposing. You want to capture it intact? Exactly. That facility contains the complete records of galactic manipulation going back millions of years. Every species they've eliminated, every technology they've suppressed, every natural development they've prevented, it's all documented there. Dr. Keening's excitement was palpable as she grasped the scientific implications. The lost knowledge of 47 extinct species, technologies that were suppressed because they threatened shepherd control, evolutionary paths that were prevented because they led to true independence. We could recover everything they stole from us, Delegate Thornwick added, her bark patterns brightening with hope for the first time since the revelations began. But Ambassador Tylex raised a crucial point. The shepherds won't simply allow us to waltz in and take their most important facility. They mentioned Protocol Zero during their intercepted transmissions. Something about sterilizing half the galaxy rather than lose control. Torres's expression grew grim. That's why we need to move quickly and decisively. Every moment we delay gives them more time to implement whatever doomsday scenario they've prepared. But if we act together, if every species in the galaxy commits their resources to this effort, we can end their reign before they can activate their final solution. Chen looked around the chamber, seeing the faces of representatives from dozens of civilizations all grappling with the same terrible choice. They could continue living under shepherd manipulation, comfortable but never truly free, or they could risk everything for the chance to determine their own destiny. The human fleet is ready to lead the assault on the core facility, Torres announced, but we can't do it alone. We need every species, every fleet, every individual who values freedom over security to join us. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy was united in a common cause. They would break their chains, face whatever consequences arose from that choice, and build a civilization based on genuine cooperation rather than managed subservience. The age of the shepherds was ending, and the real history of galactic civilization was finally about to begin. The largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of the core systems, a magnificent array of vessels representing every free civilization in the galaxy. Human ships hung alongside Zarian battlecruisers, collective bioships and silicon crystalline constructs, their differences in design philosophy united by a common purpose that transcended millions of years of careful division. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, a vessel hastily constructed using combined technologies from a dozen species. Around her, beings who had never worked together before coordinated the most complex military operation ever attempted, their centuries of engineered distrust slowly giving way to genuine cooperation. Final sensor sweeps complete, announced Dr. Keening, her mandibles clicking with anticipation. The Shepherd facility is exactly where the human intelligence indicated. But Captain, the readings are unprecedented. The main display activated, showing the target of their assault. The Shepherd core facility was a construct that defied easy categorization. Part space station, part artificial world, part incomprehensible machine that had been growing and adapting for millions of years. It existed within the ergosphere of the galaxy's central black hole, drawing energy directly from the event horizon to power operations that spanned entire star clusters. "It's beautiful," whispered Delegate Thornwick, her photosynthetic patches flickering with awe. "And terrible. How many civilizations were managed from that single point?" Admiral Torres, commanding the human contingent from the Vengeance of Terra, activated the tactical display. "Everyone. Our intelligence suggests that facility has enough processing power to monitor and manipulate trillions of individuals simultaneously across hundreds of thousands of worlds." General Korthak studied the defensive arrays surrounding the facility with professional interest. "Those weapon systems could sterilize entire sectors if they activate Protocol Zero." "They won't get the chance," Torres interrupted. "We've identified critical vulnerabilities in their defense network." The facility was designed to repel attacks from individual species using Shepherd-approved technology. It was never intended to face a united assault using innovations they couldn't predict. The attack plan was elegant in its complexity. Human vessels would use their reality-warping weapons to create breaches in the facility's temporal shields. Xerion forces would exploit those breaches with precision strikes against the control nodes. Collective bioships would deploy adaptive organisms to infiltrate and disable internal systems. Meanwhile, silicon constructs would establish quantum entanglement links to prevent the Shepherds from transmitting any final commands to their remaining agents. "All fleets report ready," announced Commander Vex, Chen's first officer. "We're as prepared as we'll ever be." Chen took a deep breath, knowing that the next few hours would determine whether galactic civilization would be free to chart its own course or face systematic extermination by beings who preferred dead subjects to independent ones. "All vessels, this is Captain Chen," she broadcast to the assembled fleet. "Today we end millions of years of manipulation and control. Today we prove that the right to determine our own destiny is worth any risk. All fleets, advance." The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history, not because of the scale of destruction, but because of the scale of creation. As the combined fleet engaged the Shepherd defenses, they weren't just fighting to destroy an enemy, they were fighting to build a future where every species could develop according to its own potential rather than someone else's plan. The Shepherd's ancient weapons were powerful beyond imagination, capable of aging entire fleets into cosmic dust or trapping them in temporal loops that lasted centuries. But they had been designed to fight conventional opponents using predictable tactics. Against the combined innovations of dozens of species working in perfect coordination, their advantages began to crumble. Human vessels phased through their temporal barriers as if they didn't exist. Collective bioships adapted to their aging weapons in real time, evolving immunities faster than the weapons could target them. Silicon constructs distributed their consciousness across multiple platforms, making it impossible for the Shepherds to eliminate their command structure. "They're activating Protocol Zero," Dr. Keening announced as energy readings from the core facility spiked beyond measurement. "Whatever they're preparing, it's drawing power directly from the black hole itself." Torres's voice crackled over the communication system. "All human vessels prepare for emergency transit. We're going to ram the facility." "Negative," Chen countermanded immediately. "We need that facility intact. There has to be another way." But as she watched the energy buildup continue, Chen realized that the Shepherds were preparing to sacrifice themselves rather than allow the galaxy to slip from their control. In their twisted logic, a dead galaxy was preferable to one they couldn't rule. Then, unexpectedly, Ambassador Tylex's crystalline voice cut through the tactical chatter. "Captain, I'm detecting quantum fluctuations from within the facility. Someone is fighting the Protocol Zero activation from the inside." The main display shifted to show internal sensor readings from the Shepherd facility. Deep within its core, energy patterns suggested that a civil war was taking place among the ancient beings themselves. Not all Shepherds agree with the genocide protocol, Chen realized. Some of them are trying to prevent its activation. Torres immediately adjusted her strategy. "All human vessels target the Protocol Zero control system specifically. Give the internal resistance whatever help we can." The battle became a race against time as the combined fleet fought to disable the galactic sterilization system while Shepherd dissidents fought from within to prevent their own species from destroying everything they had spent millions of years building. Chen watched the energy readings fluctuate wildly as the internal struggle reached its climax. For a moment it seemed as if Protocol Zero would activate despite their efforts. Then suddenly all power readings from the facility dropped to minimal levels. "Protocol Zero has been aborted," announced Dr. Keening. "The facility is powering down all weapon systems." New transmission reached the fleet. This one from within the Shepherd facility itself. The voice was ancient beyond measure, carrying the weight of millions of years, but it spoke with the humility of beings who had finally recognized the magnitude of their crimes. "Galactic representatives, this is Elder Shepherd Cyranth. We surrender unconditionally and submit ourselves to whatever justice you deem appropriate." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The beings who had shaped galactic civilization for millions of years were admitting defeat and accepting responsibility for their actions. Chen found her voice first. Elder Zyranth, what guarantee do we have that this isn't another manipulation? None, came the honest reply. You have every reason to distrust us, but those among us who oppose the final genocide have taken control of this facility. We offer you complete access to our records, our technology, and our knowledge as payment for the crimes we have committed against your species and dozens of others. Taurus's voice was skeptical. Why should we believe that you've had a change of heart after millions of years of systematic manipulation? Because, Zyranth replied slowly, your species proved something we thought was impossible. You showed us that beings we had dismissed as primitive could evolve beyond our ability to control or predict. You forced us to confront the possibility that we were not the wise shepherds we believed ourselves to be, but rather ancient fools who had stunted the growth of an entire galaxy. The revelation that some shepherds had opposed their species' final solution opened new possibilities for the future. Rather than simply destroying the ancient civilization, the galaxy now had the option of learning from their mistakes while preventing their repetition. What do you propose? Chen asked. Complete transparency, Zyranth replied. We will provide you with the locations of every hidden facility, every remaining agent, and every piece of technology we have hidden from galactic civilization. In return, we ask only that those among us who oppose the genocide be allowed to help you rebuild what we damaged. The negotiations that followed established the framework for a new galactic civilization. The Shepherd facility would be converted into a memorial and research center where the records of extinct civilizations would be preserved and their lost technologies recovered. Reformed shepherds would serve as historical consultants, providing context for millions of years of hidden manipulation, while ensuring that such control could never be established again. Most importantly, the combined technologies of every species, including previously suppressed innovations, would be shared freely throughout the galaxy. The artificial limitations that had kept civilizations weak and dependent would be removed, allowing each species to develop according to its own potential. Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of the captured facility, looking out at the galactic core where the combined fleet was beginning to disperse. Representatives from every civilization were heading home with new technologies, recovered knowledge, and, most importantly, the freedom to use them with